Love a V8 in the morning. MONOWIPER. Well, hey y'all, and welcome back to Doug's Cars. Today, one of my all-time favorites, and something I've never driven. Y'all are going to experience this with me together. The 1998 Mercedes Benz R129 SL500. I mean, what a glorious color this is. Just baking here in the mid to late October sun. And this does have special wheels on it. That they look different than any of the other ones that came on this car, and that's quite nice. You can tell it's not quite the 99 model. They came out with a facelift, and it didn't have these grooved tail lamps, and they had some other changes around the car. But this is definitely the V8 model. It definitely is mechanically totaled because this is not functioning, and so it's worth, you know, the type of money that I would pay for a used Land Rover. But let's look at the side here, over here in the sun. Black top, tan interior, just a beautiful spec, really is. Old school power antenna, which of course has been updated to a more modern stereo, as you can tell, because it's got the satellite radio receiver on there. But I mean, what a glorious car this is. These were actually based on the chassis of the W124 Mercedes, which was known as the E-Class in the US. I actually learned to drive on a 300E W124, so I'm curious as to what this is like. And I've driven a similar powertrain than this about 2 years ago. I'll link to the video above. They put this drivetrain in the E-Class, in the 124, as a 500E or E500. That one, however, has been upgraded with Rentec to a 6-liter, and of course all kinds of aftermarket goodies, so that one sounds fantastic. This one's a little more muted. These had about 326 horsepower from the factory, which today, you know, what's that, a fancy Camry? But even in 1998, that was a good amount of power. It really, really was. And I just can't wait to get this thing out on the road and put the top down. It's nice, sunny, 70s. It's gonna be fun. Let's go for our drive, y'all. I came with, I mean, these were around for a long time, but they still work. That's cool, because Mercedes, once again, safety is always important. So safety third. Interesting seatbelt connectors. I'll show those a little bit later when I show the interior a bit, but I wanted to go for a drive. I just had to. All right, 5-liter V8 starting up. Very cool. All right, top down. Well, let me, AC is on auto, so it's noisy, but fan speed, there we go. All right, fold these down a little bit here, and then you just do this. Go to the windows, and the top goes under that tonneau cover back there all by itself. Very cool. Tonneau comes back down. I haven't driven a convertible in a long time. I really haven't. I'm just so glad that I got to do this. And one cool feature about this car that there is a button for. This car is a convertible, obviously. They were only designed as convertibles, but safety was becoming a thing. This has dual airbags, and they wanted to make this car more robust in case of a rollover. So it has a rollover bar that's automatic, but you can test it. And it goes up and down with this button right here in the dash. If the car senses it's gonna get close to flipping over, it automatically raises up. All right, let's go for a drive here and get away from that train. Sport mode. It was in winter mode for some reason, and it's definitely not winter yet. One coming. Here we go. Love a V8 in the morning. This thing's awesome. Oh wow. 62,000 miles on this version, by the way. There's a lot of crap there in the back, so I'll have to see if I might need to put the top back up or not. But there's definitely some scuttle shake, it being a convertible, but it was designed that way, which is odd that, I mean, it being a Mercedes and all, but they did base it off of the 124 platform, which is primarily a sedan. You know, it feels like a Mercedes, and it sounds really good for a 90s car. There just weren't that into exhausts then. A few years when the AMGs would really start coming out with some of those amazing exhausts like you'd hear back on Top Gear and stuff like that, when Clarkson would just tune about. I mean, It's the same gauge package I grew up looking at basically, but that was 60 right there. I mean, this thing, she lifts up her skirts and goes, and I'm just forgetting how nice having a convertible can be. I had one, my E36 M3 convertible, which was a hoopty slush box. I had grandiose plans of designing it into a manual, but that just never happened. It just wasn't worth the time and effort. But having a convertible, it's just, there's just something so nice about it. And driving this one, like I've had this happen before where I've met my hero and not been disappointed. This is cool. These are not worth that much money. This one has some good value because it's super low miles and it's in really good shape, and all the hydraulics and everything have been replaced. Just cruise along at 45 here. There's a little bit of wind, as you can probably tell, but it's not terrible with the windows up. And if I didn't have the camera mounted up, I'd put the windows down, but I do. There's definitely like no noise in this car other than the wind. It's very quiet. The engine's loafing along. I'm going 45 miles an hour, and the engine's doing right at 1500 RPM. And this is actually a 4-speed automatic. They didn't upgrade to the 5-speed till the following year when they switched V8s to the M113. This is an M119. And the M130 actually had like 20 less horsepower, which seems like an odd choice to go from a car that had been made for years with higher horsepower to the same size motor with less, but whatever, that's what they did. It's an amazingly comfortable ride. I mean, Sportleicht is what SL stands for, sport, lightweight, and it's neither of those things. And this is a luxury touring car that is not lightweight by any means. I mean, this is 4,000 pounds all day long. And sport, sure, in the fact that it can get up to speed fairly quickly for the era, but it's not a sporty car like the original SL was. This is obviously, I mean, heated leather seats and power top, power roll bar, but I mean, you could cruise all day in this. This would be great to take cross country. I will say there's one interesting thing that I had not known. Again, I've never driven or ridden in one of these before. As in most convertibles, there's a brace behind the front seats in the 2-seat convertibles that I've at least been aware of that helps stiffen the car. As a result, you can't put the seat back as far as maybe you'd like. But if you put it all the way back and then try to recline the seat, it automatically moves the seat forward so that it can recline. So instead of keeping the seat back where you had it, it just decides that all of a sudden you're more interested in how the angle of the seat back is, so it slides the seat forward to angle the seat back. It's maybe more difficult to describe than it actually is. I'm going to try to show it when I show the interior of the car, but that was an interesting feature. I tried that out and I was like, oh, it's moving by itself in a direction I didn't intend for it to. But what an interesting way to solve that issue of that bulkhead back there. For taller drivers like me, in Doug DeMuro style, I'm 6'3", 6'4", whatever he always says. I'm all the way back and I have the seat at a decent backrest angle, but I could go for a little more legroom, I think. My knees are that far from the dashboard, from the knee bolster, which is carpeted and very soft and comfortable, but still I prefer a bit more room for such a large convertible, so to speak. I mean, I don't fit in Miatas with the top up, but I've had more room in other convertibles, specifically, of course, if you have a 4-seater, you can slide the seat back further like in a normal car, unlike in this. There's a Mustang behind me, which also has a nice thumping V8 in it, I'm sure, although it's probably a V6 rental car version. Power a little bit here. Yeah, it's a gradual acceleration from speed, because again, you've got this old school 4-speed automatic transmission, which is probably the only downfall in the drivetrain of this, but that's what they had then. That at the time, this was a fantastic powertrain, and it still is, as long as you take it with that grain of salt that it is from an era 30 years ago. They just continued making it almost till the year 2000. They did go to a 5-speed in the later models, but by the time the 5-speed came out in like 98, they were only a couple years away from changing the model entirely to the next generation car. So the later ones had it. The earlier ones, if you're lucky, the 6 cylinders, even in the US for the first couple years of production, came with a manual. Whether or not that fits the car, again, I don't think it's very sporting. It's more of a grand touring luxury convertible. Now that's up to you. I personally would like to experience one. You know, it would be a lighter car with the 6 cylinder as well. All right. I'm on the street here where I've dropped the car off, so I'm gonna go ahead and punch it. Hood lifts right up. Shifts right below red line, like 5,800. And on the binders, because someone decided to pull out. Usually this road's good for that, but we'll chalk that one up. Great brakes, of course, 4-wheel discs and ABS, as you would imagine. It's a Mercedes from the late 90s. And that was a fun drive. I'm gonna pull in here. Let's put the top back up. Actually, no. Let's take a look at the interior. It'll be more light without the top up, and I'll put the top back up later because maybe we can see what that looks like from the outside. It's always fun to watch. Let's go for a little tour of the inside of the SL. So when you walk up here, you'll note when I open this door, the window glass goes down. A lot of cars do that, of course, in frameless doors, but nice to see. Here we've got the power seat controls with 3 memory settings. 3 memory settings on the other side as well, in case you have 3 drivers. Nice little pockets here, with a very, very, very thin owner's manual. But hey, good to know that those fit in there. Very much remind me of my Lincoln Town Car. Very soft, cushy seats. I mean, soft, kind of flat, not a whole lot of bolstering. And then this door handle looking thing gives you access back here in case you want to get your Mercedes Benz hat out of the back. So that's good access to back there, and it locks the seat in place. And it needs to lock the seat in place because the seat belt is actually attached to the seat. This was the first vehicle that offered that. And yeah, you know, that was pretty high tech. In here, absolutely standard Mercedes-Benz. You've got the awesome cruise control switch that, you know, is still one of the best in the business. Headlight switch here, parking brake release, because it is a foot-mounted parking brake. This also shows, you know, the 62,000 miles on it. This is definitely a second kind of generation model. The earlier ones had the old school odometers that clicked off numbers and were not digital like that. As far as storage though, this was the era of the passenger side airbag, and Mercedes at the time said, no, 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 das ist nicht möglich. You can't have a glove box and an airbag. That will never be possible. About 6 months later, everybody did that. But anyway, this model's old enough that didn't have that. It does have, because this is luxury, of course, this nicely carpeted area here. Here also, right below where we put the key in, your knee bolster is nicely carpeted. If this were a non-airbag car, this button, which is a blank, would actually depress and open that. So you're wondering, what does this button do that has an arrow on it? Well, it does that. This had a built-in cell phone back in the day, and it unfortunately, you know, is not functional now. This is an aftermarket stereo in here, but when that worked, you could, you know, make phone calls through here and have it go through the car stereo system. There's an aftermarket one there now, but like, you know, all of this would have worked to have hands-free calling in this car, which, I mean, was awesome. You can tell it's got a newer design airbag. It's the smaller wheel, and this is a nicer shifter. Down here you've got your heated seat controls. This is the power top. Pull back to open and push forward to close. This is actually the button that controls the roll bar. If you look at it, you can clearly see there's a roll bar on there. Got the usual ashtray, but I think the lid has been broken because it should never open like that. And of course, the very Mercedes-Benz hazard lamps here. ASR, Anti-Schlupfregelung, is the anti-skid control, traction control. It's blank. It's actually not a blank. It does have a blinky LED in it, which is good for letting you know that the alarm is set. And of course, here we have our climate control, single zone, but then again, I mean, the car is only, you know, this wide. I can reach over and touch the other side. And then sun visors with nice light up sunshades right there, so you can see me in the sun visor. Overhead lights. This is not a power mirror, but in the earlier models, you can control this power mirror with the mirror control right here. That, of course, ridiculousness no longer existed by the time this model was made because complexity, weight, all that kind of stuff. They did replace it, however, with the garage door opener version. here, so you've got your 3 buttons there to set up for your garage door if those things work or not. That's up to you. Now, more storage. There's a sliding cubby doohickey down here that's got terrible rudimentary cup holders in it, but I think they're broken. Yeah, not gonna work. And then back here you've got another cubby that has some stuff in it that it's actually, I can fit my hand all the way deep in there, if you can tell. So despite the fact that it's full of goodies, it's actually a pretty good size, and it's got a little tiny gas strut back here, which is kind of cool, although it's kind of worn out. But again, 2-seater, same on the other side, power seat controls, which of course are the best design ever. Everyone's copied them. Another little door pocket there, and pardon me, the ruched leather. I mean, these seats are like Lincoln soft. These are not like the Mercedes I grew up with, which was MB Tech's vinyl, and those seats were kind of difficult to sit on if you wanted a soft, comfy seat. They were designed more for long distance travel, not to fatigue you like a sofa would. These are softer than that. So again, 2-seater, that's the interior. I'm gonna take a look under the hood and show you all the trunk, and then we'll put the top back up and see how that looks from the outside. In case you're wondering how you release this, because it is in the, there's actually down here, you pull this forward and lift, and that's how you open the hood, and there's a ton of plastic. This is when we were starting to get to the era of that, but it's nice and clean in here. Battery and trunk, as makes sense. Washer bottle and cooling system here, top of the strut towers, and yeah, very nice and clean. 60-some thousand mile car, so obviously you've got ABS system here, and then the master cylinder is there. Here's the trunk. Oh, well, I can see what was rattling. So it's not a very big trunk. I mean, that's all the room you get, because the top would be stored in there. Of course, there's a cover here. Very high liftover height here. And I guess you could probably get maybe 1 set of golf clubs in if you angled them in there. And this is the type of car that a golfer would have, or vice versa. Nice crazy hinges there, and beautifully lined, of course, with a very nice carpet. So these struts everywhere, holding everything up. And that is the trunk. I'm gonna take a quick walk around of the beautiful R129 one more time. It's just such a glorious looking car, and I had the opportunity to park it here right next to its elder sibling. And I mean, the family resemblance is obviously there. I mean, you've got the big 3-point star in the middle of the grille, the convertible top. This of course was made for many years, as was that vehicle was actually made from like 1989 to 2001, so spanning 3 decades. This was made in the 70s and 80s, of course. This is a 78 450 SL, and as you can see, the interior also very similar. I'm going to do a full review of this car soon, but I had the opportunity to do this one today, and so I had to jump at the chance to drive one of my childhood heroes. Now let's put the top up and see what that looks like from the outside. I always love doing that. No hands. That was the 1998 SL500 R129 convertible, and what a glorious beast that is. I'm so glad I got to review this car. I hope that came through and y'all enjoyed this video and got some good information out of it. And I will see y'all shortly. Please hit subscribe if you want to see this 450 SL. That will be coming soon to my channel. And as always, y'all have a good day.